Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Jesus said to the crowds, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never hunger, and whoever believes in me will never thirst. But I told you that although you have seen me, you do not believe. Everything that the Father gives me will come to me, and I will not reject anyone who comes to me, because I came down from heaven not to do my own will, but the will of the one who sent me. And this is the will of the one who sent me, that I should not lose anything of what he gave me, but that I should raise it on the last day. For this is the will of my Father, that everyone who sees the Son and believes in him may have eternal life, and I shall raise him on the last day. The Gospel of the Lord. So today we read from chapter 8 of Acts of the Apostles, and this is the beginning of the persecution of the church, and it's simultaneously the beginning of the spread of the church. Tertullian once said that the blood of martyrs is the seed of the church. And we see that all throughout church history, that whenever great persecutions arise in the church, at the very same time the church begins to have a massive amount of spread. Right? There's a lot of conversions that take place. Something very miraculous that we see all throughout church history. It's something that distinguishes Christianity from many other religions, especially the religion of Islam. Right? Islam spread so much because they had an army, and mainly they forced people to convert. Christianity, the primary means of conversion, was always by a radical witness and radical martyrdom, ended up spreading the faith. It's something peculiar about Christianity. It's something that maybe we take for granted sometimes. As we go through this Easter season, for example, we're going to be reading about all these different miracles that the apostles were able to perform. Right? Now that Christ has ascended into heaven, his power is acted through the church and through his witnesses and his apostles. And we might be tempted to think that performing exorcisms and performing miraculous healings and all those things were the greatest miracles that the apostles performed. But actually, if you read the writings of the saints and the early church fathers, they thought that perhaps the greatest miracle that the apostles performed was just how rapidly the faith spread throughout all the known world. And there's that mysterious line in the gospel we read this past Sunday from the Gospel of John when the disciples are fishing and Jesus appears to them after the resurrection and tells them to cast on the other side of the boat, right? And they pulled up 153 fish. Remember, that passage was really striking to me a few years ago when I was able to go to the Holy Land, and Dr. Bergsma was explaining that passage to us. And there we were at the shore of the Sea of Tiberias. Right? And the Sea of Tiberias is basically surrounded by rural country. It's not a big city or anything like that. If you didn't know about Jesus and about the history of Israel, right, you would think of it as just some forgotten piece of land. But it was there that the apostles pulled up that fish that was 153 fish. St. Jerome says that the reason there was 153 fish is because in the ancient world, biologists assumed that there were 153 different species of fish in the waters. So it was like a sign or a foreshadowing that the apostles would become fishers of men, and they would catch men from literally all the nations of the earth. It's easy for us looking back 2,000 years later to just kind of take that for granted. But imagine just how powerful of a miracle that is, that the faith has spread so rapidly all throughout the world. Especially in the age of the apostles, it went everywhere. So many people converted. It's one of the miracles of church history that too often we overlook, or we forget to realize just how remarkable it is.